Caroline, what deals will be done? What French companies will win out?
So we expect as many as 18 MOUs, a Memorandum of Understanding, to be signed in a couple of hours from now from this business summit between Saudi and France. The Total CEO, the oil giant, has confirmed on stage that he's got plans to enlarge his joint venture with Saudi Aramco. We will know details in a couple of hours. He plans to invest more, he said, in Saudi Arabia, especially when it comes to petrochemicals. And then we also have seen over here this business summit the CEOs of Accor, the hotel chain, who may have some deals in Saudi as well, the BNP Paribas chairman, and we also expect some deals in the waste and water management for Veolia and Suez. So all these details will be known in a couple of hours. No major military contracts expected due to the difficult situation in Yemen. You know, France has been accused of selling weapons to Saudi that have been used in Yemen after that. And there's also a few agreements when it comes to culture. The Saudis, for example, will send a delegation to the Cannes Film Festival next month for the first time.
Got to be a bit of culture when we're talking Paris and France. But Caroline, what about the relationship between Macron and the Saudi leaders? It's a balancing act, isn't it? And we are going to hear from the President of France ahead of their meeting tonight at the Élysée Palace. What sort of tone will he strike?
They will hold a press conference at 6 p.m. French time before their official dinner at the Élysée Palace. And of course, it will be a balancing act for Emmanuel Macron between, on one side, condemning Saudi for what's happening in Yemen. There have been a few demonstrations in Paris yesterday with 10 human rights organizations calling Macron to ask MBS, the Crown Prince, to stop the airstrikes in Yemen and lift the blockade they say is aggravating the humanitarian crisis over there. But at the same time, Macron needs to keep MBS on his side in order to save the Iranian nuclear agreement. And this is especially important when we know that Macron is going to Washington, D.C. in a couple of weeks' time in order to meet with Donald Trump. And this is where he's going to try and convince Donald Trump to stay in the Iranian nuclear agreement.
Caroline, I don't buy it for a minute. They're not talking military. They're not talking business deals. They're talking the future of Syria, which goes back to 1916. The reality is in Syria that the French have a difficult history of representing the majority Sunni, which are clearly sponsored by the Crown Prince and Saudi Arabia, against the Alawites. How is Mr. Macron, with the domestic French politics, balancing these fractured minorities of Syria?
So what Macron has been repeatedly saying that he doesn't want to take sides. He wants to talk to everyone, the Saudis, the Iranians, the Shia and the Sunni. He doesn't want to take sides in what's happening in Yemen, for example. And when it comes to Syria, Macron has repeatedly said that a chemical attack would be a red line. Now, of course, we know that was also a red line for Barack Obama. The situation is slightly different now. Macron has been talking to Donald Trump on the phone after the reports of the chemical attack near Damascus over the weekend. We will see whether the US and France take a joint action in Syria. Right now, the French have confirmed they are gathering evidence. And if there is enough evidence, it's possible that we could see a joint action.
I saw that evidence statement in Greg Viscusi's report earlier this morning. Caroline, inform our global audience of the linkage of Mr. Macron with the military. We have a very clear idea of President Trump with Secretary Mattis and with Mr. Trump's affiliation and affection for the generals of the Pentagon. What is the relationship of Mr. Macron with the French military?
So, of course, he is the chief of the military, but he's been very careful when it comes to Syria because of the intelligence needed before doing airstrikes. France has the capacity, however, to do airstrikes in Syria if necessary, along with the US and in Britain. So they have the military capability, but Macron has been very cautious, of course, when it comes to really committing to a joint action when it comes to airstrikes.